The latest stats are that they are down now 17% in sales. Their sales fell 17% in the week ended April 15th compared to the same week in 2022, 17. And they are down 21% in pours. The so-called beer board, which is a thing, actually tracks some 3,000 locations. And these locations tracked that the 6% less Bud Light being poured than rivals like Miller Lite and Coors. Well, you might think, oh, it's only 6%. No, because prior to this whole dust-up, Bud Light had been getting poured 15% more than its rival light beers. So it fell 21%. So it's down 21% in its pours. It's down 17% in just sales that, like you're going to get a Bud Light in the supermarket. And the sales of rival beers, Coors Light and Miller Lite, each grew nearly 18% compared to the same week a year earlier. This is post the leave of absence of Alicia Scheinerfeld, the VP of marketing who made this decision, and her boss, who's also placed on a leave of absence, showing us what?
Oh, man. I would love to think that this is going to be a long-term consequence, that they're really going to reap the whirlwind here. And I'm glad to see. I do think that the boycott is important. I think that it's made a good impact. I think that it's at least communicated some type of message to corporate America. Now, whether it is going to stick, I would say it's very skeptical. This leave of absence, as I've seen other people say, was probably just a shuffling around. She's either going to stay at Bud Light, she's going to go to another company, she's going to have equal impact and influence there. I mean, I think it's good that Bud Light responded in some way. They realized, okay, we kind of missed the mark. But ultimately, these companies, Bud Light, just like these other big corporations, they care about their ESG score. They care about the score that is coming to them from the Human Rights Campaign, which is a total gimmick, which basically says you have to, reach all of these arbitrary standards that we call equality standards, and we'll give you 100%. Bud Light really cares about that. That's why they push Pride. That's why they picked Dylan Mulvaney. And ultimately, what we're seeing is that a lot of these companies care more about that than their customers. It's not that they misread their base. It's not that they didn't know that they are the beer of frat parties in, Georgia and Alabama. They knew that. This marketing person said, I know that. I don't like that. These companies don't like when their buyers, when their market is made up of conservative Americans. It's not that they don't know that. It's that they don't like them. It's that they want to change their minds. And I guess they thought, this is the craziest part of all of it, that I guess they thought that choosing Dylan Mulvaney would either carve out a new part of the marketplace of progressive Gen Zers, or that they would eventually change the minds of their conservative buyers. Obviously, it didn't work. So I, have a positive reaction because of that. Ultimately, they're going to go back to it, though. Eventually, they're going to pick the next trans influencer to drink their beer, and I don't think they'll ultimately have learned their lesson.
I don't know. I think this one worked, and I think it's going to stay low because they changed the perception of their brand. It's not cool to drink Bud Light. I wouldn't order a Bud Light at a Giants game. Most of the men I know would not order a Bud Light at a Giants game. And it's not because they hate trans people. It's because it's an FU to Bud Light and their belief that their audience is disgusting and deplorable and too fratty.
Right.
And it's also the fact that they picked this particular trans person who I don't really even know whether Dylan Mulvaney is genuinely a trans woman at all. I really have my doubts. I think this person is glomming on to the trans movement for attention, which I don't think is the case for Caitlyn Jenner. I think Bruce Jenner was genuinely gender dysphoric and transitioned to Caitlyn because it was something that Bruce had been separating or suffering from for years. That's not the case from what I can see with Dylan Mulvaney. My team went back and pulled some videos of Dylan trying desperately, Allie Beth, to get attention as a man, okay? For years now, trying desperately to get attention as a man. I'm going to start in reverse order. Here's Dylan performing on stage 5 years ago. He got called up on stage. I don't know what the performance was. Look at this. It's just video. If you are listening to this, you really must go check out the YouTube. Dylan is wearing a tiny little banana hammock situation, is totally naked other than that, has very blonde hair, and is very much a man, parading his male body up there You can see, I mean, now he's on a campaign to embrace the bulge. He's wearing those same bottoms, but a bikini top with fake boobs and saying we as women need to get comfortable with people like him wearing fake boobs and the bulge down below because that's normal. That's one. Then here's Dylan a few years ago announcing not that Dylan was a woman, but that Dylan was now non-binary. Watch this.
I'm Dylan. Today is my birthday and I'm throwing a gender reveal party. And no, I'm not pregnant. It's for myself. I'm non-binary. I'm dropping the he and my new pronouns are they, them, theirs.
Okay. That lasted for about 2 minutes before Dylan said, oh, now I'm a she. By the way, credit to Ollie London, who's a great follow on Twitter for all of this. Ollie's been such a great activist on all of this and keeps us all informed on the craziness that's out there. And now Dylan is officially a she. And if you don't say she, you're a bigot, you're a transphobe. Yeah. I mean, we've all seen the Price is Right video. Dylan was dying for attention. Dylan wanted us to pay attention to Dylan. And when Dylan now finally found she as Dylan's thing, Dylan's done nothing but mock women, portray us in the most absurd caricatures. It is truly woman face. I wouldn't say that about every trans person, but what Dylan does is a mockery of us.
Yeah, going back to something you said earlier, that there really is a dark underbelly to this. And we're not talking about the men who maybe truly have suffered from gender dysphoria, which, by the way, always starts in toddlerhood. There is a medical definition of gender dysphoria, but this contagion, this phenomenon of men, of grown men, not just identifying as and dressing as women, but really as young girls. It's very strange. You see a flamboyant gay man with a 5 o'clock shadow dressing up like sometimes like a prepubescent girl. Like he has dressed up as Eloise, so a 6-year-old girl. Sometimes he looks like a 12-year-old girl. Sometimes he looks like a teenager with the big bows. Obviously, he thinks being a woman or being a girl, the 365 days of girlhood as a 26-year-old man, means basically being a ditz, being a floosy, being dumb, wearing tight little shorts where he says he can show off his bulge. He has a very dark and perverse, I think, understanding of what it means to be a woman or a girl. My theory is that very dark forms of pornography are actually leading to this phenomenon in a lot of men. Yes, I do think it's attention seeking, but I do think there is a dark sexualization of women and femaleness and femininity that comes from this, or rather the other way around, that this kind of gender confusion is coming from that kind of fetishization. I don't know that about Dylan Mulvaney, but just looking at the things that you have just pointed out, that he's always sought attention, that he's just been a flamboyant gay man, a very, very talented, by the way, Broadway singer, a very handsome man, that all of a sudden he has now decided that he's not just a woman, but a little girl. Look, there's something very, very disturbing about that. And what's more disturbing is that he is being platformed for it, that he's being celebrated for, as a grown man, identifying as sometimes a 6-year-old girl. I mean, that is sick. That's really sick.
Yeah, let's not forget how Dylan launched Dylan's whole campaign as somebody of the opposite sex. 365 days of girlhood. Girlhood was actually on a discussion for Ulta Beauty, which is a huge cosmetics chain, talking with a guy who has a beard and a mustache, but is going as a woman with a long-haired wig. I don't even know what's happening with that person, about their girlhoods and periods. I mean, so that's how Dylan launched Dylan's campaign into our lane. It's offensive and it is creepy. And that leads me to this threatening trans TikToker who we talked about just a bit last week. This person's name is Tara J. And this person decided it would be a great idea to threaten anybody who didn't let Tara J into a woman's room. Tara J is not only very clearly a man, but probably one of the least attractive trans people you've ever laid eyes on in your life. And Tara J is threatening to shoot you and me and anybody else who tries to say, Tara J, get the fuck out of our bathroom. Stay away from my daughter. You would say it nicer because you are a nicer person. Literally is on camera saying,
I don't know that I would, Megyn. I don't know. When it comes to protecting your kids, if this man walked into the bathroom with my girls, I think I would say that too.
Look, You did the tough thing during COVID. You paid your people and pulled your business through the pandemic. And now doing the tough thing could qualify you for up to $26,000 per employee at covidtaxrelief.org. Government funds are available to reward companies with 2 or more employees who stayed open during COVID. This is not a loan, and you don't have to pay it back. The program's complicated, but no one knows more about it than the CPAs and tax experts at covidtaxrelief.org. You pay nothing up front. They do all the work and share a percentage of the cash they get you. Businesses of all types, including nonprofits and churches, can qualify, including those who took PPP loans, even if you had increases in sales. You did the tough thing for your employees during COVID. Let covidtaxrelief.org help get you up to $26,000 per employee. Visit covidtaxrelief.org. 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 Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.